It's not an easy thing to be good. You have to be tough as a damn boot to be good, because you have to stand your ground when you need to stand your ground, and you have to be able to say no when it's time to say no, and you have to mean it. And so then you have to think and plan strategically so that when you're going to say no, you can mean it and it will stick. You know, and that takes a certain amount of integrated malevolence, I would say. And once it's integrated, it's not malevolence, it's strength. It's strength of character. It's the ability to stand your ground. And you have to cultivate that.
It's pretty easy sometimes to feel beaten when you're faced with all those issues and all those problems, and they all hit you at the same time. But let me tell you, that doesn't mean give up. In fact, it means the opposite. It means it's time for you to fight harder, to dig in. It means it's time for you to go on the warpath.
You got to do the fucking other work with it. And the other work is uncomfortable and it's hard and it takes time to get used to. But once you start to get used to it and then combine it with that, you have a situation where you're in control of your stress. And the reason you're in control of your stress is because you're in control of almost every area of your life that could possibly be controlled. When you control the shit that you can actually control in a real way, the stress just becomes something that is, you know, you're just like, okay.
But there's no one that I know that takes it easy or has balance and lives a lifestyle of freedom. There just simply isn't. Everyone that I know sets themselves up for higher expectations. Everyone that I know who's successful and happy and fulfilled and making a massive amount of impact and income and inspiring others, they have higher standards of expectations. Everyone that I know who is doing well surrounds themselves with other hard workers, and everyone that I know is harder on themselves, and it is okay to be hard on yourself. I'm not saying like beat yourself up to the point where you just feel defeated and you feel like a piece of shit. But like, be hard on yourself, man. If you set the goal to make 10 sales calls today and the day ended and it's Friday and you only got to 7, be hard on yourself and say, you know what? I'm gonna keep calling until I get to 10.
People wonder, well, what's the meaning of life? Like, what's it all about? What justifies the suffering and the misery and all of that? It's like, well, that's what justifies it. It's like you put yourself up against that. You think, okay, with all of this pushing against me, how much can I push back? Could I move the horror an inch back with all the strength that I have at my disposal? Man, and the answer to that is, yeah, you can. It makes you better with regards to yourself, but it also makes the world a better place.
You don't get discipline from your parents, from your grandparents, from your older brothers and sisters. You don't get discipline from an external source. You have to get it from you. That's what self-discipline is. You get it from yourself. You get it from you. So there's people from every possible background, from no parents to crazy parents, to, you know, drug-addicted parents, to super squared-away parents, and everywhere in between on that spectrum that are completely disciplined people. More disciplined than anyone I know.
Like, if for 10 years, if you didn't avoid doing what you knew you needed to do, by your own definitions, right, within the value structure that you've created, to the degree that you've done that, what would you be like? Well, you know, there are remarkable people who come into the world from time to time, and there are people who do find out over decades-long periods what they could be like if they were who they were, if they spoke their being forward. And they get stronger and stronger and stronger, and we don't know the limits to that. We do not know the limits to that. And so you could say, well, in part, perhaps the reason that you're suffering unbearably can be left at your feet, because you're not everything you could be, and you know it. And of course, that's a terrible thing to admit, and it's a terrible thing to consider, but there's real promise in it, right? Because it means that perhaps there's another way that you could look at the world, and another way that you could act in the world. So what it would reflect back to you would be much better than what it reflects back to you now.